Hi folks, this is video number 104, and the title is New Hire and a Fire. In my early days as a technician, or essentially a new hire, you didn't get a lot of responsibility handed to you. You worked at the semi-automatic case packer for 6 months, manually opening containers and placing them on a nozzle. On a good run, you did that 2,500 times in 8 hours. Along with that, you had to keep the glue tank filled for the case sealer, keep the case sealer clean, and the scrap picked up and the floor swept. That job got so monotonous that you dreamed about it and actually woke up feeling like you put in another shift. One night, I jumped out of bed to clear a jam. After case packing for 6 months, you moved to the beginning of the process. Originally, we used multiple layers of paper for the product, but soon after I was hired, the process was changed to a thick layer of ground-up paper. The unit that did that had a grinder that rotated at 5,000 RPMs. The ground-up paper was deposited on a driven nylon screen surrounding a trapezoidal vacuum box. The grinder had a shaft with 2 bearings and a flow-through oil supply to keep them lubed. Oil was delivered by plastic tubing. Part of the work up front also included hauling scrap by the cartful to a tipple device that dumped the small carts into a much larger one. Of course, sweeping the floor and keeping the place neat was also mandatory. I was sweeping behind the line when I looked up and saw heavy smoke coming out of the grinder house. I later found out that a bearing had gone bad, created sparks that set dust on fire, and that in turn melted off the plastic oil supply lines, and 10 gallons of oil was being pumped into the fire. There was lots of smoke. I grabbed a fire extinguisher. They were all dry chemical types on the machine at that time. I charged the extinguisher and yanked open the big housing doors on the driven side. You could not see anything but smoke. I aimed the nozzle at the center of the smoke and opened up with the nozzle and was going to make a sweeping motion with it to try to see what was happening. Unbeknown to me, a teammate named Ed was on the other side of the housing, mirroring exactly what I was doing. We could not see each other for all the smoke. We both unleashed the dry chemical extinguishers at the same time and got each other right in the face in the crossfire. There was no rule about always wearing safety glasses at that time. Ed was older and wore glasses naturally. I had none. We both ended up with sulfur powder in our eyes, mouths, and up our nose. That stuff smells like rotten eggs. It was nasty. I was smelling that stuff and blowing my nose for about 2 weeks trying to be free of that smell. As time went by, we had a few different style grinder enclosures. But after that first fire, a design change was made to use stainless tubing oil supply lines. There were a couple of fires over the years, but just a couple that were easily put out. They were nothing like the one being fed with 10 gallons of oil while it was burning. We also changed to CO2 extinguishers, and the larger enclosures later on have self-contained automatic fire suppression systems. It sure beats rotten eggs blasted up your nose. Well, that's the end of my little story about being a new hire and my first grinder housing fire. All the best, folks. All the best.